let's take it from there. You don't need much more of an introduction than that. Who the fuck cares? Yeah, 2020 was a pretty crazy year for me. You and I have been talking about this interview for a couple of years at least. And, 2020 was crazy for everybody, but I lost my father to COVID in 2020. He was already sick, so it wasn't a horrible surprise. But once that happened early in April, I immediately went into a revaluation, was able to catch up on a lot of work. So 2020 was tragic and really, really productive. Really productive. As you see, we got the trains. It's warmer in here, so I wanted to do it in the subway versus the street, versus my place, versus my studio, versus my apartment. The subway made more sense to me. It's near and dear to my heart, both Philly and New York.
Speaking of Philly and New York, right? I did hear that you was homeless at one point.
I was homeless. That was in LA. I was born in Oakland. Then within a year of being born, my family picked up and moved to LA, where I was raised in LA till I was 12. My whole family is from Philly. I'm the only one that was actually born outside of Philly, including my parents, my 3 older siblings. They were all born in Philly. I just happened to be born in Oakland and then raised in LA. In those years, my parents, who really didn't have any business being together, fell apart. And my mom, who was wild with 3 kids before she even met my father, just sort of went back to her old patterns. And between new things like prescription drugs, which was a new thing in the 70s really for them, and alcohol, it got really crazy. When my parents separated, my mom had no way to support herself and sustain herself. She wonderful woman, a creative woman, but just really dysfunctional, not really capable of working. So we ended up homeless. There's a lot more details to how we ended up homeless and what made us stay that way, but ultimately it was just dysfunction. So for roughly late 1979, 1980, homeless till 1982, summer of 82, right before my birthday. I was. My mom continued to be, but I ended up in Philly with my pops, trying to reinvent myself after not going to school for 3 years and things just being very real, very tough.
Right. How did you even get into this?
Right before I ended up homeless, well, it was a couple of years really. In the 70s in LA, if you were in the street, skateboarding was going through a second big boom in the 70s. And I forget, somebody around our house, like at one point we had this house, and it was crazy. There was all kinds of crazy people doing drugs and hanging out. Nice people, cool people, all various levels. People who did nothing and people who did everything. Somebody that was friends, I don't know whether they're friends with my mom or my brother, my oldest brother, or I don't know who, but they skateboarded. And they put me on the skateboard. Again, this was like 78. And as soon as I got into that is when I kind of started noticing people and their style and their affiliations and the gang affiliations. In my neighborhood back then, I was on the edge of a neighborhood that was old gangs, rebels from 13th Street and Clanton from 14th Street. And so I was looking at the local, like, sort of gang culture, and then skateboard culture, and then like my family, who there was a bunch of different types of people really around the house. And looking at that style, I just started to emulate skate culture, surf culture back then. And one of the first things you did was you went to a Vans store. Vans back then, the Vans stores back then went by the parent name. Vans is short for Van Doren, which is the family name. Subway. When you went to the Vans store, it was a real generic kind of a thing. It wasn't, I mean, not that it's super stylized now, but it felt like a family store. But the thing about Vans back in the 70s, and I don't know how long it went into the 80s, but you could go to the Vans store and they were relatively close proximity to the Vans factory. It was all, LA County and surrounding areas. And you would go to the Vans store, you'd get like an Era, an authentic, same silhouette, or slip-on Vans, and you would walk up to the counter and you could custom order them. So they had these rings of materials and patterns, from Hawaiian to just solid colors, to the classic colors of what people call the old school now, which was just a skate, and I guess it would be a skate high back then or something. And all those colors and variations allowed you to make the sneaker your own. And so you would go in and look at the rings and binders full of materials, and they would pull out a piece of paper that was just like a ditto, like a Xerox copy, a photocopy, and they would show you the silhouette of the shoe, and you'd pick the different colors and patterns for the shoe. And something about that just blew my mind, that I could make a shoe that was basically kind of, in my mind, one of one. And they didn't have to match. It's not like now where you have these different programs that the shoe companies do, where if you make it, it's the same colorway on both shoes. Back then, you could have them mismatched. So I would, mix them up and have one that would be like black, gray, black, and one would be red, gray, red or something. So that, when I did that, I noticed that people noticed that it made me stand out, that I didn't have what other people had. And that was really, really, Vans was really key for me falling in love with shoes and understanding the value of really having not just sneakers, but clothing that no one else had, or at least in your immediate circle. And I was fascinated with shoes to that point, and I think I literally think it's because of that moment. And again, I'm not from a sports background. Skating was pretty much the only sport I did. I don't really care about football, baseball, basketball, so none of those things influenced me. I didn't care about the athletes. I was looking at more, skateboard heroes and surf heroes back then, and dudes on the street, the shit that they were just wearing. So yeah, that's that.
And one thing, since we're talking about sneakers, right? You have the infamous Menthol sneakers that everybody know about.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you know this guy, Warren Lotus, that he recently got sued by Nike for imitating,
the silhouettes.
What do you got to say about that? Because you kind of started that thing. I felt like.
No, I didn't start that. It didn't even come close. It's just the project I did tends to perhaps speak the loudest to that moment. But let's not forget, who influenced me, and that's Nigo. Going to Japan all those years ago. And I think the first time I went to a Bape store, it was a 10-year anniversary. It was 2003. I was lucky enough to just tag along because my friends were being flown out there by Pharrell and the Star Trek crew, the BBC ice cream crew, to just be part of that party. And I was able to tag along as just a guy carrying records and being with Cypher and Max and Kev and Phil Leeds and Loic. And so I had only, at this point, there was no other Bape stores except for in Japan. And so I've been jonesing for years to see this. And when I got there and I saw what Nigo was doing with the footwear, it blew my mind. And it wasn't so much that, the silhouette is a silhouette, but it was the fact that he was doing things that Nike didn't dare do, that he was using materials and colorways and rifling them out fast. And this was, I think literally when we were in Japan, they had just introduced the first sort of patent leather Bapesters that became famous and everybody knows them for. But when we were there was only just leather versions and camo and other types of traditional materials. So when I think about, people, and before that was just people bootlegging. There was all kinds of Louis Vuitton patterned, how you doing? Louis Vuitton patterned Jordan 11s and ones and all kinds. I don't remember seeing too many bootleg ones back then, but there was just real bootleggers. And so thinking forward now to this moment where you have factories that have been sort of predatory, and I know that they've been DMing me for years now, where they just hit you up and they basically have these generic silhouette Jordan 1s and Dunk lows, Dunk highs, and they're basically saying you can put your logo here, change the whatever the monogram you want to have on the side, cut out your logo, and stamp it with a generic sole. It's not a customized sole, very generic silhouette, and you can do it for cheap. So they've been hitting people up like me and other people trying to get that, and eventually it just started to get down to the kids that were dreaming. And so when I think of Warren and his situation, it's regardless of whether you like all these things or not. My project was it was for a different reason. It was social. It was a social statement. It was a case study. It was art first and foremost. I did them in a numbered edition. But the bootlegging that's happening now, it's not really important whether you like it or not, whether it's true or not, whether it's right or not. It's a catalyst that people are starting to create businesses and understand the process and building up audiences that they can eventually, hypothetically, maybe one or two of them will have their own brands with their own silhouettes. And even if it's not footwear, they're building their names. And Nike and other brands can afford people to share that real estate. No one's ever going to be a threat to Nike in this space. Whether it's these kids or someone doing an art project like me, or it's not going to threaten them. But it can be the catalyst. It really can be the catalyst for somebody doing something great sometime soon. So in that, it's not, I won't speak on what I like and what I don't like and whether I think it's good or bad in terms of the aesthetic and the ideas. There's lots of good stuff, lots of garbage. But more importantly, this is the potential for a very pivotal moment for things to change and kids to create brands and create silhouettes. And it's really up to you that you can be critical of these things, the people who are watching this, but you can criticize. But how many of you have gone to an unknown brand and bought an unknown silhouette? How many of you have gone to a known brand and bought a small, low-end brand and bought an unknown silhouette? Probably none of you. Maybe 1% of you, maybe? So before you criticize, get out there and support these people that are actually doing their own silhouettes, and then maybe the criticism is valid. But aside from that, whether you love it or hate it, it's important that you understand that this is potentially a moment that will change things. And that's really key. It's really key. That's how I feel about it. I'm not going to speak on who's doing good or bad or any of that. I'm just happy to see people challenging the status quo.
This story takes place in 1997. I was at a hip-hop conference that was called How Can I Be Down? I showed up to the party solo, and it was a complete mob scene. If you weren't in, you weren't getting in. But since I had been in Miami so many times before, I knew there was a way to get in from the sides or the back. So I make my way through these bushes. I start finding a little path down the side of the building. It's like a little tunnel at this point. And I'm looking ahead and I can see a little bit of light. And as I see the light get a little brighter, I start to see a figure there. I'm thinking there's some crackhead in there, some homeless guy, or some crazy person. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I said, "Hey, you trying to sneak into the party too?" Guy's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get in there." And he starts standing up, looking over the wall and coming back down, trying to figure out his angle of attack. I'm still just looking at the back of this gun. And he goes, "All right, there's a trash room right there. It's like the dumpsters. I'm going to hop the wall, land in, and walk through." And I'm like, okay. He turns and he looks at me and says, "You coming?" And just in that moment, I realized it's the rapper Redman. Now, you have to understand, Redman is a legendary, iconic figure in hip-hop. And at this point, he's at the peak. He's a superstar. And here we are, both trying to scam our way in. He just says, "Okay, I'm going." And he hops over the wall, lands on the other side, makes his way past the trash dumpster, and there's a little bit of a gate, lets himself in and goes. And I was like, oh shit, that worked for him. And I hop over the wall, and as soon as I land, a security guy sees me and he's like, "Climb the fuck back over and get the fuck out." And so I have to hop back over the wall and walk through the bushes and back out, rejected and completely humiliated. I didn't make it in, and Redman made it in. That just shows you how absolutely real Redman is. There was no arguing at the front door like, "Do you know who I am? I'm Redman." No, he didn't get in, so he found a way in. And while those other rappers were around the front trying to huff and puff and show off their jewelry and their wares and talk all their shit about how they should be in there, Redman got in, and they didn't. because he kept it real and he stayed down to earth, literally.
And I wanted to go back one thing too. It's a special moment that you did tell me before was that situation that you had with Jay-Z.
Oh, Jay-Z. What do you mean situation?
Well, not a situation, but
that sounds real negative.
No,
No, that was
you and Espo.
No, it was me. That was in the magazine days.
Yeah, the magazine days.
That was myself, Espo, who was the general and the leader of our publishing venture there. Steve Espo Powers, Max Glazer, Jimmy Wentz, aka Jimmy Fingers, Kenny Mees, who was absolutely there at the beginning with Steve before I was even really getting my hands wet and trying to be in the publishing game. All of us collectively had, for those of you who don't know, we had this hip-hop graffiti-based magazine. And it was just a struggle magazine. We never made any money from it, but we did, because we were just young and being crazy and being bold. We did lots of horrible stuff, lots of great stuff. We were just taking chances and trying to dream the big dream of being in the hip-hop industry and being able to turn our passions for graffiti and hip-hop into something viable, like a real job, a real career, as naive as we were. But it went on from '89 to 1997, and in that last year, we were brainstorming for the new issue, which would have been issue number 19, and we were trying to think. We knew that we wanted to put Jay-Z on the cover, and so we were trying to think of an idea that we could propose to Def Jam, propose to Rockefeller, propose to Jay-Z that he would actually, agree to. Now, all of you, this is 1997, and Jay, at this point, Reasonable Doubt, his first album went gold, and so there was a platinum Jay-Z. The jewelry is platinum, but not the record. But I think he co-wrote or the Ain't No single with Foxy, and that I think at that point was a platinum single. If her album wasn't platinum at that point, but that was a platinum single, I'm pretty sure. So it was really easy to see how disciplined, how focused, and what the promise of his talent was going to be. And there was no genius of our own. We just, I don't think anybody would have thought that he'd be where he is at this moment, except for him, rightfully so. But we knew something special was happening, and we just wanted to get in before it was too late to even get near him. So we came up with an idea, and it just, as he was sort of perpetuating this idea of platinum, it was sort of his thing, or at least he made it his own if it wasn't his initial idea, that platinum is a more precious metal than gold, and therefore is more valuable, and he was perpetuating that. So Reasonable Doubt was certified gold, and we came up with this idea of putting him on the cover as a chef. And the idea was that the Gold Gourmet, the guy who cooked up this gold album, that was known for this gold album, was now going to cook cream of platinum soup, which was just his idea, or his vision, put into a pot like it was gumbo, essentially, right? And that it was this recipe for platinum success that he hadn't even achieved with his own project yet, but seemed inevitable. And so we pitched it to Def Jam, and they pitched it to Jay, and then Jay's people got back to us.
The next stop is 2nd Avenue.
And they went for it. I couldn't believe it. It was like, it's not the Jay-Z of now, but even then, you're talking about somebody who's, very close-knit circle, not easily accessible, very protected in terms of his image. And the idea was, again, that he would have this pot. And it was one of those classic sort of like stainless steel military-style, tall, deep pots that you would cook for several people in. And we filled it with, silver paint, bucket paint, and we then put in what appeared to be like platinum chains, and we took cassette tapes and painted them silver so it looked like platinum, and took broken 12-inch vinyl and put that in there. So it looked like he was melting down all these things into his recipe, all these platinum sort of elements into his platinum recipe. And that him being the chef, that we would get him to wear an apron, a white apron, and then put him in this backdrop, which was also platinum, like a silver mylar. And my friends liked the idea, and the general, Steve Espo Powers, ultimately he liked it, and we were all partners, and it just seemed like the right thing. And when Jay-Z agreed to it, we couldn't believe it. We went down there, set it up, and we have, which nobody has seen, but they will. From 1997, we have the original issue, the original photo shoot, the original content, the original interview with Jay-Z, and the pictures of him wearing the white apron, stirring this pot of platinum paint, which was just Rust-Oleum silver bucket paint. So it was just noxious, and you get high just being in the room. And Jay, being the professional, he handled it like a professional. It was one of the best shoots I've ever done. The Mobb Deep shoots were great. What Jimmy and Steve did with Old Dirty Bastard may rival that, De La Soul, but that Jay-Z shoot, especially looking at it from here in 2021, and Jay being the first hip-hop billionaire, rapper, MC billionaire, it's a really special photo, and I look forward to me and my team showing the world sometime soon, one of these days. We've been holding on to it for a long time for a very specific reason. That's how we ended up working with Jay-Z, in that one moment, that one day, that he was gracious enough to let us do that. And it's a memory of a lifetime. It really is.
That's fine.
Thanks, man.
This is from the soul, right?
From the soul.
Right.
From the
Everything's
soul.
From the soul. And I'm the big sneaker enthusiast. I love sneakers, period.
Yeah, me too.
If you had to pick one sneaker ever, just to pick one and to take it to the island, what sneaker would it be?
Like from any time period, any era?
Just one sneaker. You could pick anything, but you gotta just take one sneaker. And I asked everybody that I interviewed and talked to, which is that one sneaker you're gonna take to the
deserted island.
To deserted
if I had
island.
one island to take, one sneaker to take with me to a deserted island, what would I take?
One sneaker, and you can never get any other sneakers in the world, just one. You gotta pick one.
Only one pair?
One pair.
I don't know. One pair. One pair. I was not prepared for that. I don't know. I think that would depend on the day I woke up.
Right.
I don't know that I could narrow it down. But if I was in to make a list, not in any order, it would be the original Air Force One from, I guess that's like '84, without the perforation, without the holes in the vamp in the toe box there. But that would be close with an Air Max 95. Air Max 95, I know it's not the most popular shoe in the world at the moment. All these silhouettes fall in and out of love with people. And I think then maybe Vans slip-on, or an Era Authentic, which is same silhouette, just sort of different construction. But that would be hard. I wake up different days, and fortunately I don't ever have to make that decision. And depending on my mood is how it goes. And today, look, these are a pair of Vandals. They're samples with the sample tag in them from I think it's 2005 or 2006.
That jacket is mean too, though.
Beat up
That jacket is mean.
Polo country.
Attention passengers,
Couple decades
running on the F line between Delancey Street, Essex Street, and
So
Roosevelt
what?
Avenue.
What did you say? Couple what?
It's a couple decades.
On the E line
I
between
think.
Roosevelt Avenue and Canal Street.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, I couldn't afford it when it came out. I'll be honest with you. I was broke as hell, even though I think at this point I'm probably too old to be broke. But
A service of
when when I could get it, I got it on eBay for real cheap, long ago, but long after it was released.
F
So.
train on level at West 4th Street. For service to the A tier F train, you can transfer at West 4th Street.
There's always delays and redirections and rerouting and detours. But I tell you what, we're warm. It is brick outside right now. It is cold, bleeds your ears cold out right now. In the 20s, but there's a wind chill, so I don't know. It's probably low 20s with the wind chill. So it feels good in here. I don't care how noisy.
The next stop on the train will be 2nd Avenue. Stand clear of closing doors, please.
I don't care how noisy and nasty it is. This is a much better prospect. And I'm just tired of sitting around. After 2020, I don't want to sit in my studio anymore. I don't want to sit in my apartment anymore. I don't want to sit in anybody else's studio anymore. I just want to be out. So we're in the subway. It's just a couple of us here, so I'm maskless at the moment.
Yeah, man. I want to just thank you for, like.
Oh, that's it? We're done?
No. We're not done.
Okay,
just
okay,
yet.
okay.
Well, I do want to thank you, like, just for all
Thank you, man.
putting the work, putting all this, like, you know what I mean? Just contributing the game and the hip-hop, sneaker,
Thank you,
music,
man.
medallion, everything you've been putting, working.
Thank you,
You know,
man.
like, I appreciate you.
Thank you,
You know
man.
what I'm saying? And this part of the show, this appreciation, I like to give the flowers while you're here.
I appreciate
and
it.
my flowers is
Thank you,
a
man.
pair of sneakers.
Say
that I
what?
got.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is for you. Yo, and you had always the love for Vans. So this is the Vans Toy Story. It came out around 2016. The movie,
Are you
this is one of
kidding
my
me?
favorite.
Are you kidding me?
Nah, man, nah.
Are you kidding me?
This is one of my favorite movies, Disney movies. Came out in '95. The Woody, this Vans
man.
is inspired by the Woody character, of course. The cow print on the side.
Brand new,
Denim
brand new.
heels.
Brand
Of
new.
course, brand new. Yo, definitely Vans is one of the most stylish shoes, and I know that you have a lot of love for Vans.
Man, Vans, few things are as influential in my life as Vans have been. Nike is, I own more Nike stuff than anything, from memorabilia to actual shoes. And I love Nike. Whether they love me back doesn't matter. That's some adult shit. That you can love people and not like them, love them and not like the way that they operate, or like them and not love them. But Vans goes all the way back to my childhood, and as I explained before, some of my best memories. This is. Thank you, my brother.
Yo,
Thank you, man.
appreciate everything.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate that. That's incredible. I was not expecting this. Don't think this was set up. I had no clue. No fucking clue.
Never.
And you know what, man? I have not been doing any interviews lately because I've just talked about all these projects and things to death. But I made a commitment to you, and it was important to honor that commitment. And
I appreciate you, brother.
anybody who knows me knows that I come from nothing and something and back to nothing and back to something. And I do always try to support the little guy, at the very least with my knowledge, in this case with stories. And I made that promise to you, and I'm honoring that. I appreciate that. And this was really unexpected. I really, really appreciate that. I've never been given a gift in an interview. This is next level. Thank you.
Nah, man, I got that love
This
for you,
is-
but
this
it's
is-
always, like, you know what I mean? You put
I
in
really
the
appreciate
game.
that.
It's all love and respect, brother.
Thank you, my man.
God.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that, man.
Nah,
Really appreciate
come
that.
on.
You know me, man. I'm a sincere cat.
Nah.
This is
come
real.
on.
Thank you, man.
Nah,
Thank
this
you.
is all from the heart, from the soul, man.
From
It's
the
from the
soul.
soul, man.
Yeah, from the souls that set me on the route.
Right.
There they are.
Fire.
The only waffle pattern I care about.